If you are just joining us on Facebook, I'm Lauren Van Hemert, and Susannah Hough is back with us. I think you're going to get the record for almost the most interviews now.
Okay.
But do you want to introduce your guest tonight?
Yes, it's my honor to introduce Terri Dollar. Terri is a legend in the Raleigh-Durham area. She was an actress for years and years and had all kinds of other things. She had her hand in arts organizations and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that. But right now she is owner of KU Talent Agency along with her partner, Julie Teravis. And so we're going to talk all things casting and acting and all stuff like that.
Well,
so Terri, welcome. Thank you for
if you have any questions or comments, you can post them on Facebook and we'll get to them if we can. And I will let you guys start and have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Terri.
Hey, Susannah.
Long time no see.
I know, for sure. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad we get a chance to sit down and talk. We have a lot to get to, and I gave a little bit of an introduction for folks that are tuning in, but I just want to go over a few more things on your resume because you have accomplished so much in your career and have added so much to the quality of life and the cultural life of the Triangle. So without further ado, let me just dive in real fast to the laundry list of accomplishments. Okay. Former actor of 25 years plus. Now you're, of course, with Julie at KU Talent Agency, director of numerous screen and stage projects through the years, a casting director of commercials and industrials and other things on screen, an image director for Fox 50's show Gimme the Mic, co-director of Special Theater Arts Raleigh, your star program, which we heart so much, a former high school drama teacher, stage mom to Aubrey and Caroline, who had careers in their own right, former program director of Artsplosure for over 20 years, also First Night Raleigh and other festivals downtown in the Raleigh area, 6 years of service to the board of directors of the North Carolina Theater, several years of service on the board of the North Carolina Film Commission, several years of service on the board of directors of Theater Raleigh, 2 years of service on the board of the Raleigh Hall of Fame, as well as service to several other arts-centered organizations, which I won't even go into. So that is a lot. When you say it out loud, you're like, did I do all that? Yes, yes, ma'am, you did. You did that. So let's dive in and start with young Terri. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Shelby, North Carolina, which is in the western part of the state. Actually, that's where I was born, but I actually lived in a tiny little town until I was about 10 years old called Polkville. We would say Polkville, but it's Polkville. And that's where I lived until I was, that's about 13 miles from Shelby. So, yep, that's where I was born and raised.
Okay. And so tell us about your childhood. Was there art in your home? Or what was little Terri into? What was happening?
Well, I was the only girl in my family, and I have two brothers. And I would have to say that early on in my career, my mother was very instrumental in my performing. She was very musical. She played the piano, she sang, and she was sort of a part-time choir director at our church. So my very first performance was when I was 3 years old, and I sang. She had me sing "How Great Thou Art" at church. And I always tell people this because it's kind of interesting. I remember it. I remember it extremely well. And I remember that was the first time I had stage fright. You know, I had like a new dress and I was going to sing. And I remember my throat was so dry. And I just thought, I don't think one syllable will come out. I don't sing, so I'm sure it was horrible. But what I do remember about that experience is that after that, my mother was really proud of me, and she was just like hugging me and kissing me and saying, "You were so good. You were so good." And I do remember my thought in my head at that time was, people like you when you perform. And it's a good thing because they're going to like you better. And people in our little town would see me, and people at church and in Sunday school, they would say, "You were so good last week. We were proud of you." And I kept thinking, I like this. I like this. Bring on some more of that stuff.
Nice.
So, so in my little town, there was no theater when I was a little kid, but my mother signed me up for talent shows like crazy. There were always talent shows, and we had to come up, and she had a friend, Miss Juanita, who played the piano and knew a lot about what to wear, costumes, and sounds like gypsy or something, but you know, I would have certain things and I would perform. And we moved to Shelby when I was about 11 years old, and at that time I got involved in, they had little theater and theater in my school and all that stuff, so I knew that was where I belonged, and that's what I did. I don't really, like I said, I did musical theater, but I'm an actor who sings. I'm not a singer who acts by any stroke of the imagination. But, you know, in working with my agency, I am very, I feel very sensitive and tender toward those really, really little actors because, and I always tell parents, I mean, I try to advise them on how to nurture this. I mean, my mother was great. But I won't say, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a middle child. So I won't say that a lot of what I did wasn't to make them happy, because they seemed to be really proud and really happy when I did it. You know? So do it some more.
So you don't really have like one aha moment. Was it high school, or like what made you decide that that's what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
It was probably in one of the shows in high school. And I remember so well, we were doing the show No No Nanette.
Oh,
and so
you mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh God. But I know you have a picture of that. But we were doing this show, and so what I remember, oh yeah, there I am, hat and everything. Whoa, good gosh. But I remember coming down that staircase, and you know, like you're taught always in musical theater, before you open your mouth to sing, look at the conductor. And the conductor was down in the pit, you know, he was the high school band teacher. And my boyfriend at the time was playing the clarinet in the band, and he was also looking at me. But I remember really well looking at him, the conductor, and I remember he had this gigantic smile on his face, as if to say, "You look great." And he just went like this. And I just remember, I thought, okay, I got this. And I had friends. It was interesting. I had friends who had no interest. My best friend in high school is a girl named Mary Porter, and she had no interest in really acting, but she said, "I'm just so in awe of you that I'm going to get a part in this and just be one of the girls standing over in the corner just because I want to watch you up close." So, I mean, that was probably the moment because I remember thinking, wow, I mean, you know, and I got some decent reviews and all that kind of thing. So, I mean, people said I was good. I don't know if I was good or not. You know, whatever.
Yeah, but you had validation. You had, you know, people telling you.
I did, but I also got really involved in high school. We had a forensics and drama forensics and debate team. And because, you know, the plays when you're in high school, you have like one in the fall and one in the spring. So we had a forensics and debate team, and I was really into the oral interpretation, kind of like reader's theater with one person, where you would actually pick a piece of literature and you perform it. And we traveled. I wasn't smart enough to be a debater. But I was pretty good at, you know, I used to do the Sylvia Plath piece that was like so dramatic, and it was so much fun to do. And so we competed a lot, and I did win a lot of, I've got little medals and awards. I did win quite a lot of things in that. And it was nice to be competitive in that world, not to mention, you know, that my nerdy boyfriend was on the debate team, so it was an excuse for us to spend time with each other too. So but I did really, that was a nice outlet for me. I don't even know if they still do that anymore. Forensics, and what a name, forensics. It doesn't even sound right.
I don't know dramaturgy for sure, but I don't know about that. And at the high school level, I have no idea. But
But I liked, what I liked about oral interp was I was always an avid reader. I read books like crazy. I mean, my mother literally would punish me for staying up at night reading when I was supposed to be asleep. So I always read. And so for me, it was a way to kind of combine my love of reading with my love of performing. And so that was kind of fun. It was really fun for me.
Yeah. And then you, after high school, you went on to App State.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I had gone up with a friend to check out the college, and they were doing Little Abner. And I thought, I know, what a play. But I thought, but I thought it was pretty dang cool. And I hadn't seen anything, man, I hadn't seen anything except for community theater before. And this was at least a university produced show, and it was done so well. And I thought, well, okay, yep, that was one of my shows at Appalachian. That was an American dream. Edward Albee's An American Dream. Don't ask me why they would have a college group do that, because I was playing like a fat 50-year-old there, I think. But in any case, and that's Gary Grimes is the guy on the sofa. I don't remember the girl, but anyway, the thing I remember about this play, Susannah, is that, my parents used to come up to see everything that I had done, everything that I did at Appalachian, whether it was a, small stage or big stage thing. And they came to see me in this play. And this was after coming to see me, I think, in Happy Birthday, Wanda June, which they also thought was strange. So they came to see me, and my father came up to me after the show and he said, I always want to watch you perform. But he said, can't you do something normal like Hello Dolly or Our Town? Do you have to always do this weird stuff? He said,
college dad. Yeah.
This keeps me up at night. I can't sleep after I've seen you do this stuff. So,
well, Albee especially,
it's so bizarre. And the other thing, I see myself holding that glass, and I very well remember that one of my earrings fell in that glass.
Oh, God.
And I had to, there's one scene where she downs her drink. And so I'm downing my drink, and I just plopped my earring out and stuck it back on my ear.
There you go. That's great. And so you liked your time at App State, and you decided to major in theater.
I did. But, back then, being an actor seemed like a pipe dream. And even being a drama teacher seemed like a pipe dream. They didn't hire a lot of teachers just to be theater teachers. So I also double majored in English. And like I said, I was always a book nerd and I loved it. So I figured out if I took 21 hours every semester, and yeah, I did, took 21 hours every semester, that I could graduate in like 3.5 years. Oh. So I did. And I had like 185 credits or something, way more than I needed, because the English and the theater overlapped in some ways. But and I figured, well, maybe I'll get a job, teaching English, if nothing else. So
yeah, okay. And then you came out of the mountains, and then what did you do? You launched your acting career?
Well, not right away. I'll tell you exactly sort of what happened. It was kind of life taking a turn for me, but I started out, I got a job teaching theater at Broughton High School, which was a big deal, because it was at that time, it was the largest high school in North Carolina State, and in the whole state of North Carolina. So it was very prestigious, and it was so I got a job teaching there. And so my plan was I was going to teach a couple years, I was going to save money, and I was going to go to New York, and I was going to be, a Broadway actor, of course, like so many other people, but I needed money. And so this seemed to be fun. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have to work and make money, I could work in a factory, or I could, or I could teach. And I had a teaching degree. So I got a job, and it was hard. It was hard because when you're teaching English, you have all these papers to grade and lots to read. And then I was also teaching theater, which meant I had rehearsal every single night. So it was hard. It was.
And you were young. You were like
21.
Not seasoned, and not a seasoned.
No, I was 21 years old when I started teaching at Broughton High School, and I was teaching some seniors who were like 18.
Right.
I mean, some of the people that I worked with while I was at Broughton were like Brent Wilson, Glenda Mackey, Jim Crew, Sharon Lawrence, all these people I worked with in one way or another. I know, it's great. Yeah. They're great. And now they're like, contemporaries. But in any case, so I was teaching at Broughton High School, and then something really, 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 probably one of those moments, it was tragic, but my mother died. And she was 45 years old. And, Oh, wow. It was the first time in my life. And in some ways, the way life is right now was sort of like that, because I went from running 1,000 miles an hour to a grinding halt. It was just a halt, and she died suddenly, and it was tragic, and it was horrible.
Yeah,
So
sorry. Yeah. I lost
my
my mom
life,
too when I was really young. I think we talked about that before,
yeah,
but yeah,
it's and
everything
it's
just stops. Your world as you
yeah,
know it just, yeah.
yeah. And I thought, I guess I'm not going to be anybody's little girl anymore. I don't know what I thought, but I was dating this guy at the time, who happens to be my husband now, Clark. I was dating him, and he and I really, got closer during that time.
Mhm.
And it was just so weird, because all of a sudden I didn't want to be an actor anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be with him. I knew I wanted to be with him. So we hadn't really we talked about getting married, but we had no dates. He knew my dreams. He knew what I wanted to do. But so I just wanted to get married. So he said, let's get married. And so I got married. I taught through that school year. My mom died in December, and I taught through that school year. And then he was working, he'd gotten a job in Wilmington. So we moved to Wilmington, and I thought, okay. So I spent that summer kind of mourning my mother. I would go to the beach every single day. And for an hour a day, I would sit in the sun on the beach, 1 hour. That's all I allowed myself. And I would sit on the beach and I would just cry. So I mourned her that whole summer. And then on a whim, one day in August, I thought, well, Clark had a great job. He was making lots of money and all that cool stuff. So I didn't really need to work, but I wanted to work. So I thought, what am I going to do? I'll get a job teaching. I thought, or maybe I'll go back to school. So I went over to UNCW, which was, a couple miles from where we lived. And I went into back then you couldn't look this stuff up online, people. There was none of that. You had to walk in the door.
Good
So I walked in I walked in the door of the admissions office, and I said, I might like to go back to school, sometime. So what do y'all have? And they had like 3 master's programs. Music was one, and I already told you I can't sing. So the other one was marine biology, and I was like, eh. And the other one was educational administration. They said, well, you could be a principal. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll be an arts principal. I'll be principal of a performing arts high school or something. So I said, yeah, what do I got? What do I have to do? What do I need to do? And they said, well, unfortunately, you have to take the GRE to get into this program, and the last day to take it is today. And I said, okay, is it too late for me to sign up? And they said, well, as luck would have it, they had one person drop out. So there's one space left. So if you come back in 3 hours and take the GRE. So I took it.
Without studying and preparing. Okay.
Nope, but I did well enough to get in. So then I started in graduate school there a while. And then, it was great. I really enjoyed it because, I don't know. I always enjoyed school. I love school. I really do. So I was happy to be there, and it was fun to do. And I did a play while I was in school there. I did a play. I did with Thalian. I did Butterflies Are Free.
Oh,
And
yes.
it was really fun. It was super, super, super fun. I'll tell you guys a little tidbit. I think you have a picture. You can show it. I think, did I send a butterfly? I'm not sure if I sent one, but anyway, from the Butterflies Are Free, I did that play, but I did it. My co-star in that show was a guy. I knew him as Sandy Miller, but his real name is Alexander Miller. He used to be the arts person at NC State, like the dean of the arts program. And I was on the board at Arts NC State. And I remember walking into this meeting, and I see this man, and I keep staring at him because I hadn't seen him in like 30 years. And I kept staring at him, and I kept thinking, I know you. And then I said, Sandy? And he got red in the face, and he said, yes. Oh, he's Alexander now. So anyway, it was really fun. It was really fun. It was great to do that. But I did some theater while I was in graduate school. I did some theater, and then I got pregnant. And I had a baby.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had about 6 months left, and I finished my master's degree with baby in tow. I used to go to the library, and people used to think I was an undergraduate, and they kept patting me on the back. Oh, it's so good that you're finishing your college degree. And I was like, well, I'm in graduate school, but thank you. But but yeah, so life took a turn.
When was this shot? When was
That was one of my first headshots that I had done. That would have been maybe 1986 or 7. That was that was a few years after that. But yeah, it was a while. I came back.
Look how cute you are.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, that girl was sassy. Yeah.
All American, adorable.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
and so you got pregnant, and you had 2 babies. And
I did.
What was happening at that time when the girls were little? Were you acting?
Yeah. So I didn't really do a lot of acting when they were little. I did when they were really little, I did a show out at the Governor's Inn. Used to have a dinner theater, and it was great. It was called the Village Dinner Theater. Some of you old people would remember that, but we did the female version of The Odd Couple.
Oh yeah, I was in that one time. Yeah, it's so funny. I love it.
It was hilarious. And in that show, Joe Brown, if you guys remember Joe Brown directed it. And Tina Cash was in it. Sherry Willie was in it. I don't remember. But the bad thing about doing dinner theater was like it usually ran for like 3 months. And it was every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday matinee of your whole life. But I did that when they were little. I think my husband was ready to leave me at that point because, when you have 2 itty bitties at home and it was kind of fun though. You get to leave and you just go, see ya.
Yeah.
But in any case, I did a little bit of theater and I was teaching a little bit. I ran into my old student, Glenda Mackey, and she and her mom had started Arts Together. And so I started teaching there. And so for about 10 years, I taught at Arts Together, and I was the performing arts director there, taught creative drama. It was fun. It fit in with my kids' schedules and school and all that stuff. And
review you and the girls when they were little. Aubrey and Caroline.
Yeah, that was in New York. Yeah. There they are, the gingers.
Yeah.
Ginger girls.
Yep.
So we so at that point I was actually doing Dark of the Moon at Raleigh Little Theater. And I know that was one of my favorite shows. And that was also directed by Joe Brown and Dennis Rogers. He used to write for the News and Observer, was in it with me. There were a lot, and Rod and Nancy Rich were both in this show.
Wow.
So at that time they were working at Videophonics, and they came to rehearsal one night and they said, "Hey, you guys, we need some actors to be in this video tomorrow." And I'd never been paid to act a day in my life. So anyway, they asked, if anybody wanted to come and audition, and I went in and I got the part. And I think it was actually for a Roses store. You guys remember Roses?
Yeah.
So in any case, I did the video, and then I started doing more of those. We did a lot of industrials, training films, we used to call them industrials. I did tons of them. I mean, in terms of this area in I would say late 80s, early 90s, I was like the Meryl Streep of industrial films here. So I did SAS.
Yeah.
I worked one time for SAS when they were developing all of their software. They used to always send out VHS tape with the training, with the film, to show people how to use a certain piece of software.
Right.
So anyway, I remember once I did this job when they were releasing something, and I wore the same suit, and I was just typing at a computer, and I would turn and I would talk, typing just like a talking head. But I worked for like 45 days on one project. So, and that was a good job. SAS was always a great place to work. But
here's another one. That's from the family.
Yeah, that was a print ad that I did. I remember the wind machine in that one, and my hair looking sort of windy there. And that guy, Kerry, his name is Kerry something, but he played my husband maybe 15 times in films and video.
Wow.
So at this time, my children weren't really acting. That wasn't something I really necessarily wanted them to do. I wasn't against it, but it was like my part-time job that I did I wanted them to do other things,
right,
play musical instruments and do sports and things like that. But eventually they got into it by osmosis.
They did.
Yeah, there we go. That's one time we actually convinced our dad to be in it. The model who was supposed to be playing our dad, they were actually shooting at our house. and the model who was playing the dad didn't show up. And so Clark came walking, and the photographer said, "What about him?" And so we got him, but he hated it so much. He whispered to me at one point, he said, "This is your thing, not mine. Don't ever ask me to do this again." But it was a Christmas picture, so we were excited. So once the girls started acting, then we sort of became a threesome, because a lot of times, like for local things, directors are very nervous about, working with stage moms and everything. So they thought, well, if the mom's already there, then that should be fairly simple. So so we worked together, and I never knew if I got the job because of them or they got the job because of me, but we were a nice little package because they looked like clones of me, and that was nice. But in all honesty, we had some great times when they were acting. It was super fun. Usually, we'd have to get the car loaded up with all of our clothes, and we would go to these various, modeling jobs or acting jobs, and they loved it. I mean, if they hadn't loved it, then, but they were spending time with me, and I don't know, it was a fun thing to do. It got to be hard sometimes. Then they started getting hired themselves independently. Yeah. And that's when it got kind of tricky, because sometimes I would have a job and their dad would go on set with one of them. At one point we had grandparents with one child, dad with one child, and I was doing another job. And it was a lot to juggle, frankly, but it was good stuff. It was really good stuff.
Okay, I'm going to show you this picture because I think it's so gorgeous. Do you know what that's from?
Yeah, that was actually an episode of Matlock that I did. I played a murderer. In Matlock, everybody either got murdered or you murdered. Yeah. And you only got to do it one time because, once you played that character, then you didn't get to come back. So that was actually an episode of Matlock. And all I remember is I'd starved myself because I was wearing this like 60s. It was a flashback thing. Oh yeah. It's on reruns. It's called The Legacy. It's actually a 2-part series, and parts of it are in black and white. But this dress was a 60s like tight shirt waist. And when I went in for my costume fitting, she said, "You're going to need to lose 5 pounds before that's going to zip." And I said, "No problem. I'll do it before I work." But it was super fun. I worked on a lot of anything that was shot in North Carolina. That was a pretty big part on Matlock, but actually most of the stuff that I did was tiny. I might have one line. I'd play a nurse. I'd play a woman on the soccer field watching their child. I had tiny roles. My biggest claim to fame in acting, where I actually made the most money, was I did a national Lazy Boy commercial. Oh. And it was by far the smallest acting thing. All I did was just go, "Sit down." I told someone to sit down or try out the chair. Yeah. And it was a dealer spot, and it ran for 10 years.
Oh my God.
I know. So
you got residuals?
I did a lot. And I actually am a vested, I'm not a member of SAG, but I'm vested in their pension plan because I made so much money over that 10-year period. Oh my God. So, and it's funny too, when I think about it, because that was like, I'd worked my butt off for so many other things and made so little money. And this was like the easiest job I ever did. And I made the most money. So.
Okay, we'll take it. Okay. And then there's this one. That's gorgeous. Other voices, other rooms.
Yeah. Now, so my daughter, Aubrey. So, basically once my kids started acting, I didn't get to act much anymore. And frankly, they were so much more talented than I was. They were way, 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 way better than I was. And so that was kind of, I always tell people that was the beginning of the end of my acting career, but it was fine. It was fine. I was completely happy. In this particular movie, the only reason I got this part was because Aubrey had a large part in this movie, and it was shot on Edisto Island, South Carolina. She missed like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks of ninth grade, the beginning of ninth grade, because of that. So they had a hurricane come through and we were all hunkered down. So they had this part, and this woman was supposed to fly in from New York to do this part. It wasn't playing her mother or anything like that. It was playing a completely different person. So they had this woman who was supposed to fly in, but she couldn't get in because of the hurricane. And so they didn't know what they were going to do. And they called my agent, not asking about me. They were saying, "Who else do you have who can drive down here?" And she said, "Well, you've got one fine actor right there. Terri Dollar could do that part in a heartbeat." And so they came to me and said, "Would you mind putting a rinse on your hair?" And I have a rinse on my hair there, but it still looks red. So they dyed my hair, and I had to drive that antique car, which they were really excited that I could drive a stick shift. Yeah. For actors to know, because I came walking up to the set that day, and and one of the crew guys came up and he said, "Oh God, Terri, please tell me you can drive a stick." And I said, "Well, of course.
Baby.
I'm a country girl. I can drive a stick." And he said, "Good, because if you couldn't, because I had to do this scene and I'm talking to her while I'm driving away, there's like dialogue and stuff." He said, "I was going to have to be in the floorboard of the car working." And there was this old man who owned that car.
Oh, wow.
And I had to test drive it for him so that he wasn't nervous about me breaking his precious, And I said,
Sure.
"Don't worry. I'm good at this. My daddy taught me how." I know how.
My first car was a tractor. Okay. All right. So then we fast forward to 1997, 98-ish. And that's when you took over a talent agency.
I did. I was,
I
I was being represented by Boots Bruner at that time, and she was a fantastic agent, was one of the first agents actually in North Carolina. And I'd been helping her already because she wasn't very technologically savvy. Not that I'm great, but I had a VHS video camcorder, the big sucker that you held on your shoulder like this. And I started going over to her house. She lived really close to me, and taping actors from time to time. Frankly, about 50% of the time, they were my own personal children that I was taping. So it was self-serving for me as well, but I was helping her because I wanted her to be able to stay up with the times. And so anyway, long story short, she passed away. And a lot of the casting directors that when I've been helping Boots, they would say things to me like, "You ought to think about being an agent someday." And I was like, "I don't know, not sure." So long story short, I didn't take over her agency as much as most of the adults went with other people, but I'd always been interested in developing talent in young people, and having just raised both of my daughters were incredibly talented. Like I said, they were great. They were the it kids at that time. And so I'd already raised them. And so I thought maybe I can help some other people. So I had like 10 kids at that point, and 2 of them were mine. so yeah, I had like 10 kids. And so I decided I would just start a youth agency. There really hadn't been one in North Carolina at that time. So I thought maybe that'd be a good thing to do. And her agency was called Actors Unlimited. And she did it that way. She called it Actors Unlimited because it was in the phone book. And then it would be like an A, like Acme or something.
Right.
But I called mine Kids Unlimited, just to sort of take a little name from her. And we started. And oh yeah, there I am with some of my kids. That was actually last year at Arts Pleasure. There were some kids that performed at Arts Pleasure last year. But
Terry's kids are all over the triangle. You've got over 500 actors on your roster now. How many of those are kids?
I would say probably 4, maybe 350. 350 are kids. We've got a lot of adults now too, because we do work with adults. What was happening was we were developing these kids, and then when they were 18 or when they couldn't play 18 anymore, we would hand them over to these adult agents. And it was like that moment with the frying pan. You have to say, where's the smarts in that? And even some of the casting people said, "What are you doing? Why are you giving them away?" So then we started representing adults, and that's been an amazing thing. There I am with my partner, Julie Travis.
Yay, Julie. Hi, Julie.
Julie's fantastic and has been with me. We think about 10 years now. So I think about 10 years. I don't keep up with dates. I used to keep up with dates depending on what grade of school my children were in, but I can't do that anymore. So anyway, that's my partner, and she's fantastic. And a lot of the success that my agency actually is able to enjoy right now is because of that beautiful, beautiful creature right there.
Yeah. She's
and
awesome.
I love and adore her. She is awesome.
Awesome team. It's
thank you.
The team effort.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, so all the while doing Artsplosion and other festivals like First Night, and tell us a little bit, real briefly, like what is happening in your life. It's like 2 trains running on the same track.
Yeah, so basically about the same time that I started the agency, and it was just starting out, truly, there was not much money, if any. And so I was putting, there was love in it, but I was putting a lot into it. But my daughter was going away to college, and I really needed a job. And so I started working at Artsplosion as the program director, and I started that in 1998. And I'm eternally grateful for that organization, because for 20 years I was the program director, and it was an amazing job. I got to work in the arts every single day with amazing creative artists and performers and musicians. And I didn't really know that much about producing festivals, but I found, in fact, it was very much like directing a play. You know, you cast your people, you show up, you put all the pieces together, you think of the lights and the sound and all the things, and then when the festival comes around, it's like showtime. So anybody who worked with me knows that no matter how tired I was, I got extremely adrenaline giddy on a festival day, because oh my gosh, it was just like the most big rush to see the show finally come together and all the pieces. And it was also wonderful because as the years went on and my agency grew and it got to be more popular, I was able to mesh my worlds a lot. Like I was able to have kids from my agency or people from my agency work at the festival or perform at the festival. And what it meant was I had a 9 to 5, that was Artsplosion. But after 5 o'clock, then I would start the agency stuff. And I had Julie through all this time too, who was taking care of all the stuff during the day. Then I would start. So my work days were generally 14 to 16 hour work days. I was on, kind of a fast track.
Yeah, you were on the treadmill.
I was, and it was fine. I mean, it was hard sometimes. And through the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years of that, I was also taking care of my father, who was sick. So I had a lot. But
yeah, you did. I know you were always traveling to see your dad and take care of him. We miss seeing your dad on his photos and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. He was a real performer. In another life, he would have been an actor. Believe me. Believe me.
Well, the Artsplosion job was a really big deal here in the Triangle, and you were responsible for bringing in so many wonderful entertainment acts and artists. And
Thank you.
I just want to thank you. I think you contributed so much to our cultural life here in Raleigh. It was all because of you,
Oh no, I mean, there's lots of people. There's lots of people involved, but I would say one of the things,
these musicians and and these artists, and bring the coolest stuff to the streets of downtown. It was great fun.
It was a fun time to be involved in the art scene in Raleigh, because if you look at the last 20 years, we went from downtown Raleigh went from a place that people were afraid to go to at night.
Right.
And it went from a place of, Artsplosion was basically the only thing happening, because Artsplosion is 40 years old now, almost 41 years old. And so they were with the events that they did, that was basically that, and the Christmas parade were the only things that brought people downtown. Okay. So we were really involved, Artsplosion as an organization, and I was lucky enough to sit around that table, but we were really involved in being part of the conversation about what it would be like to live in an arts city, a city where you on Friday, you say, I wonder what's going on in downtown tonight. I remember very well Roger Krupa, who was the director of the convention center at one of the meetings I was there, and he said, I want people to think about what's going on in downtown Raleigh, what's going on. And so, I've always loved downtown, and my kids basically grew up at Memorial Auditorium because they did tons of stuff at NCT. They know every nook and cranny. Back then they used to have theater camp in what's now the Kennedy Theater. And I had volunteered so much, and I was very much into that scene and very much into other art scenes. But to think about putting things outside and festivals outside, so we really tried to, and Michael Louder, who was my boss at Artsplosion, he would always say, I want people to walk into this festival and be amazed. I want them to walk in and say, whoa, what's that? I've never seen anything like that before. So, we always tried to do some kind of cool, fun things that would, and the thing about a free festival that's really cool is that you introduce a lot of people to the arts who would never buy a symphony ticket,
right,
or would never buy a theater ticket, but you can in little ways bring the arts into them, because they're what we used to call uninclined audience. So it was a lot of fun.
Right. I'm just here for the beer, but I also got a really cool performance. to watch.
And for children too, it was a
Oh,
great
yes.
way. I mean, I have a gazillion memories of little kids. I remember the first year I was working there, we had a guy, very famous jazz musician named Terrence Blanchard. And he's, won Grammys, and he was up on the stage, and this little boy came and he said, "Hey, Art Sploger lady." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How'd that man get to do that?" And I said, "Well, why don't we go backstage? I'll let you ask him himself when we get finished." And so I took him back there, and he said, "Oh, I started taking lessons. I grew up in New Orleans, and I started taking lessons, and I picked up a horn and I learned to play." And it was really cool. But there were so many kids that that I actually got to watch some of them like be that kid and then come back and perform
Yeah.
at Art Sploger. So there's been a lot of,
That's really cool.
yeah, it is. It was very, very, very gratifying. And it was quite awesome. There's some people in the art scene now in Raleigh who would say, "Oh yeah, you hired me. I was at Enloe High School and my jazz ensemble played." I won't embarrass them, but there was a lot of that kind of thing. And it was really fun to do. I didn't really do any acting at that point, because between being an agent and being a program director at Art Sploger, there wasn't much time for that.
No. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the agency and about the world of acting and on screen and all of that. Okay. So the Southeast, we still have our fair share of work to be had on screen for TV and film projects. But of course, Raleigh and North Carolina doesn't have very much going on right now because of the film incentives.
Nobody does, not anywhere in the world.
Well, yes.
You and I were on this chat today, and they were saying we were on the chat today with a manager from LA and a casting director from LA, and there is one show in Germany and one show in Australia, I think, that are still going on, but they're
Everybody's
literally
looking to them to show us how to do it. So
yeah, so it's not much going on right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happened in North Carolina was the film incentive went away. Now, Governor Cooper has been very instrumental in trying to bring it back, and he's gotten some good incentives there. They're not back to where they were in the 90s, but everything moved to Atlanta, or moved to Georgia, basically, mostly Atlanta. All the work that could have been in North Carolina is in Georgia, but it's still close enough to North Carolina that my actors are still able very much to take part of that. I mean, there's more shows shot in Georgia right now than there are shot in California or New York. So more TV shows.
Right.
Which is great.
We're lucky in that respect, really.
Yeah, we really are.
Virginia and South Carolina as well, but it's mainly Atlanta. And the other thing that, we've figured out in the last 10 years is how to be really good auditioners on self-tape, right? Because we always have had to send in a tape to casting, at least for the first go around. And so we're pretty good at that. And, with COVID-19 and everything else, we're not really sure when we're ever going to get back into an actual audition room. Hopefully one day, but I don't know when that's going to be. And I don't think anybody does right now. So tell us a little bit about what you're learning and about this time, what we can expect in the next, say, 3 months or 6 months or year about the industry.
Well, I mean, anybody that you talk to, they'll all say, well, it's all a bit uncertain, but I definitely feel that in terms of productions, things are not going to be the way they were, say, even 6 months ago, for a really long time. So, I mean, we're talking at least until there's a vaccine and people feel safe out there. So, and it's interesting too, because I've read so many articles about, what will your set look like if you get to go? I definitely think that self-taping is, to get in a room with somebody, they're just not going to risk that unless it's something that is super, super, super safe, super private, super, all of that. I think we're really looking at self-tapes. But I mean, the good news for North Carolina actors is most of us have already become quite adept at self-taping. I mean, back in the day, man, we used to have to do the VHS tape, and I would drive as fast as I could to get to the airport before the last plane left at 8:30, FedEx plane, put it in an envelope, and it would cost you a fortune to send it. And so now you can tape over and over and over again until you get it right. Immediately you can upload it. Immediately LA can see it. Immediately LA can share it with 5 other creative people on the team. And I mean, and there's the possibility of Skype callbacks.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what do you think of Skype or Zooming auditions? Do you think there'll be a lot of that in the
Yes,
future?
I do. I do. Skype coaching, Skype taping, Skype callbacks. I do, because I feel that that's going to be a way to put many people in the room at the same time seeing this person. It's not the same thing as being there for an actor, but actors are going to have to become really adept at bringing it for this tiny little,
yeah, we're going to have
screen.
to be masters of technology is what we're going to have to, that's another skill we're going to have to acquire, actually.
Yep. I think so. But I think that we've been doing it for so long now that I think that, but there are ways now, even some of the people that professionally tape are coming up with methods that they can coach you through it, and then you can tape yourself. But people are going to have to get the right lights and the microphones,
right?
And
exactly.
the things that make your tapes look professional are going to be really, really, really important, because you're going to be competing against people who have those things.
That's right. And you won't be competitive with the people that have the proper lighting, proper sound, camera, all of that, the backdrop, whatnot. You don't really get an opportunity for a redirect if you're just self-taping. That's the only pitfall of a self-tape, is if you miss the mark, there's nobody there telling you, hey, can you try it again, but this time,
Right.
But I think the industry will probably adapt to that. They're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah, and they'll figure out too that okay, this person was taping themselves. I mean, we've already gotten words from casting directors to say, do not do anything unsafe. Make sure we understand that you're probably going to be taping this on your phone in your house. We get that. Make sure you turn your phone sideways when you tape, and make sure you have good lighting, and make sure you do all these things. And some of the tapes that we've been seeing, Julie and I've been going, wow, not too shabby.
Good.
So yeah, which is good. So people are beginning to audition now. Most of the shoot dates still say to be determined. They don't really say when. They'll say late summer. So in terms of the time, nobody's really wanting to say, but most people are saying things will start back up in some form or another, late summer, early fall, I think, in some form or another. We're getting a lot of requests for animation, which I think is cool. I think animation is going to be very, very big thing this fall.
So voiceovers and stuff like that.
So we're getting calls for that. We're getting a lot of calls to renew commercials that people have already shot, because or they're trying to pull footage from a shoot they already did, because there are no shoots right now. There's nothing they can do new, so they're trying to use some of that. So that's been very advantageous for several of our actors too, that they're reusing things that they've done before. So we'll take it.
Yeah, right.
In the chat. For sure.
So let's talk then quickly about what we can be doing right now to help ourselves, since so many of us are finding ourselves with downtime. We have extra time on our hands, because success in this industry, luck has a lot to do with it, but it's really about discipline and dedication. And it means, like, if you find yourself with time on your hands, why not use this time to better your craft, right? Just get better at auditioning, get better at self-taping. And it happens to be Self-Tape May, which I thought we could talk a little bit about. My son Riley started. So what Self-Tape May is, throughout the whole month of May, you do 16 self-tapes. That's a little promise you make to yourself. You'll put yourself on tape for 16, and you'll do 16 auditions. And he just started this week because he was finishing up school and he had final exams and whatnot. So anyway, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, I think that it's a really good time, and we were talking today about this with the manager and the agent from and the casting director from Los Angeles. But it's a really good time to sort of sharpen your skills as an actor, and the self-tape May is one of the ways that that can happen for sure. But there are so many. I mean, the amazing thing is so many casting directors and directors and different people are opening their doors virtually for these free webinars that people can take advantage of. And I think, you know, it's unprecedented time. You can't say, well, I don't know if I'll have time to watch that. You have time to watch it.
Right. And you don't have to get in your car and drive 100 miles and pay $200 to go do it either.
No, and they're free. So I would say do every one of those. I'm a big masterclass fan as of late. I actually got this as a Christmas gift for myself and my husband. And I've started watching Ron Howard's series on directing, and it is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Every actor should watch that, just because it's a great from a director's sense, and also because he was a child actor too. But he really picks and the neat thing about masterclass is that they're broken down into these neat little modules. So you can watch 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes, and you know, and it's a super good deal right now. You can still buy one membership and get one free. And I get no kickback from them, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of other information too. There's cooking classes and writing classes, and Helen Mirren's acting is the next one that I want to take. But it's super great, and there's chat rooms where you can talk to people, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really, really fun. But
ooh, thanks for that tip. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, it's a good one. If you need to give someone a birthday present or something, you can. If you buy one membership, you get one to give as a gift right now, which is pretty good. And it lasts for a year, so that's a good thing. But there's a ton of really, really great videos and webinars. I mean, it's unprecedented in my life that so many of these professionals are opening their doors and giving themselves freely. So you should do all this. I also think it's a really good time to work on things. For example, if you're a professional actor, you have an agent and you have an actor's access profile. So now is a good time to make sure that all of that is just perfect. I also think you should have all of your special skills clicked, and you should have work on your demo. A lot of times people don't have time to track down the different little pieces of everything, and most of those are pretty skilled on computers now. And we could make our own demos to put on there. Make a voiceover demo, even if you don't have one. iPhone is a pretty darn good microphone, and you could actually make your own voiceover demo, and you can just find voiceovers that are out there that are on TV now, or Google good voiceovers. Believe me, someone's already thought of it, and record a voiceover demo to have, and make sure that you've got, great shots and stuff like that too.
Oh gosh, headshots. Yeah, we should talk about that. This is affording us a lot of time to do our homework and to get our act together, really, because those things that we're talking about are so time consuming, and we get very down in our everyday life. But you're right, we should just use this time like to clean up our actors access profile, or create a website if you don't already have one. Use a template and just put it on there and get going.
True.
And so, okay, so those are some things we can be doing. Self-tape May, I'm a huge advocate of that, because what you do is you get 16 scenes of characters that you would be right for right now, that you would be 100% castable for today. And you can get them off the internet, or you can sit in front of Netflix and transcribe something from a show that that has characters your age range and your type, and put it on self-tape. You can have your accountability group of your friends, get 3 or 4 friends and do it. Or you can go to on Instagram. There's other people doing it, and like Audrey Helps Actors, Audrey Moore does it, and I think it's really great. It really forces you to take a hard look at yourself on tape and have other people.
That's hard to do too. I mean, when I was an actor, oh God, as soon as I would see myself, I can't stand to listen to myself. I don't want to look at myself. I would just be like, ugh. So it's hard.
But this is good because the stakes are low. There are no stakes. It's not like you're sending it into anybody. It's not for a real audition. But anyway, it's a really great way. And you should research your region where you are. So look for the shows and the showrunners like in Atlanta that are producing in Atlanta. Figure out what shows are right for you. Figure out, what you're selling. And then, you may not be right for a Tyler Perry show, but you might be great for a Greg Berlanti show or something like that. And then go study their work, study their scripts. That's the other thing, we should talk about audition.
Oh, you've been so good about this. Susannah, are you reading a script every day?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You post that and I'm just like, I'm impressed.
Well, that's what I'm doing with my time. I'm doing a lot of, I read a lot anyway, but I'm catching up on a lot of things that I always meant to do and never had the time to do. But so yeah, that's what I do. But when you start reading a lot, you understand the structure of a good script. And so as an actor and in an audition, you can analyze that script easier, faster, you can access it better and you learn from it. And, I remember hearing this example that Audrey Moore did. She had been submitted for SVU and she went in there. She was like a suspect that had been taken in. It was like a under 5 thing. And she'd been, a suspect taken in and questioned by the police. And her immediate, the thought she was going to do was like, well, this girl's got hauled into a police station and she's so scared. She doesn't belong there. And so her immediate go-to was, well, I would cry. I would be so upset that I got taken in and oh my God, and tears and, fear and all that. Well, she didn't get the role. And then she watched the show a couple months later and the actor they hired didn't do any of that because the actor that got the role understood that the structure of that script, her role in that scene was to provide tension, was to fight back against the police officers. Fight against that so that they could turn around and say, well, she's dead, don't you? And then she would be like, oh my God, she's dead, like that. So I thought that was so smart, because like a lot of times when we are doing our self-tapes, we don't get the whole script. We only get the sides. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on in the whole plot. We don't know what to do. Right. So, but if you understand the way 1 hour procedural shows are written, the formula or a 3-camera sitcom or, whatever, then you can access that.
Yeah, we do. Julie and I always suggest to actors, especially we had an actor recently who got cast on the show, The Resident. Mm-hmm. And seriously, the main attraction to this actor, I mean, she's a good actor, but was that she spoke Farsi. And this actor had to speak Farsi. And so it was really interesting because, she called me up sort of, a little bit nervous about, I said, look, you got this. You've got this. Watch the show. Yeah. They hardly act at all. They're just, everything is like, it's so underplayed. And it's just, they just kind of speak softly because they're in a hospital and she's a surgeon. And I said, you talk to people like you're not even talking to them. But it was really interesting, Susannah, because the other night I was watching your interview of Alphonse and I feel like so many actors, they just beat themselves up about, what's my emotion? What's my motivation? What am I feeling? Whatever. Right. When you're somebody in the class of, say, an Alphonse Nicholson, you read the script, but you show up and you do it. Mm-hmm. And you don't really think that much about it because especially in film and theater, you work all that stuff out. You have time, you do all of that stuff and it's wonderful. And that's fun to do those shows. And it's fantastic as an actor to train. And we love for all of the people that we represent to do theater. And granted, we don't like it when they do play after play after play, because then they're never available to do any of the decent paying work. Yeah. But at the same time, especially in film, there's no lying of trying to force an emotion or something. It has to come completely through you. And I love it when we start picking at someone like Alphonse, he's like, I don't know what my method is. I know.
It's like, spill your secrets. He's like, I don't know.
He doesn't have any.
I don't think too hard about it. Oh, okay.
He's he's the real deal. The
Yeah.
real deal is what everybody wants to be. And all these people study and study and study, and they stress and they stress and they stress. And I just want to say, relax.
Yeah.
Just let it flow through you, because that's the really, I mean, who was it that said, show up and don't bump into the furniture? I forget who said that, but some famous actor said that. But you know, the biggest acting, the best acting tip that I ever give to anyone is that so little is about what you actually say.
Yes.
It's much more about what you are, how you are. And I remember, you know, in working with really talented kids over the years, that was the number one thing that directors would say was, you know, when they were on this child and they weren't speaking, but they were listening, they would say, look at her face, look at her face, look how engaged she is.
You know, that's a really good tip that I've learned doing a self-tape. Find that one moment in the audition when the other character's speaking and give them the nonverbal communication, the reaction. That's a really important thing to do, you know.
Right. It
and
is super important.
That has to do is with knowing what you're selling, knowing what you bring as an actor. Like, I don't want to say your type. I hate that word, but there's a lot of truth in it. But you know, if you can just, like, you know, like you say, be yourself, be whoever you are. What are you offering? You know, are you cute and quirky, or are you vulnerable and sensitive? Are you, you know, whatever you are, and how you can bring that to the role, you know, because that's what's going to come out.
Really, and that's what gets people cast. What gets people cast is the realness, the rawness. When I always say, you know, I love to watch my children when they perform, when they're on screen. But, you know, I've watched Aubrey on a couple of things, and for like this moment, I forget that I'm looking at I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you know, she just got shot or whatever, you know. But it's just like you lose yourself in it. And, you know, and I've been watching too much Ron Howard, but, you know, we're telling a story. And it's all about storytelling, whether you're the writer or the director or the actor. All these people, these team members come together to tell this story. And so if you're going to tell this story, you have to be authentic and you have to be real. And if you aren't authentic and you aren't real, then you're not going to be, especially for film, I can say you're not going to be right. It has to come across as, for this character, this is how they would actually be. This is real. Right. You couldn't tell the difference between that actual person and the actor. It should be the same.
Yeah.
And you can't, you know, you can't let the bones of your acting show. Like, if people see that you're acting, then they're not going to watch you. It's not enticing to them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Are there any do's or don'ts you want to go over for auditions, or not just auditions, but anything for actors?
Well, I mean, I would just say most of the actors that we represent know all these things, but for those of you that maybe we don't, for one thing, if you're ever in the room with somebody, don't ever try to shake their hand, especially not now. We used to do open calls, and we would see maybe 200 actors, and they would all want to shake our hands. And I got to a point, I was like, it's flu season, and this was before COVID-19.
Yeah, now we'll never shake hands again.
No. But the other thing I would say, you know, is you have to have, and we touched on that a little bit today, but I mean, you have to have a little bit of that killer instinct, because you have to understand that in order for you to get the part, you have to be the most right person for that part. And so if you're going to be the most right person, I mean, physically you have to be the right person, and you have to have the right voice, and that's all fine and good. But you also, you know, we see a lot of times people will have a huge audition and they don't even memorize their lines. Somewhere along the lines, somebody told them, maybe for a community theater audition, you can hold the script, that's normal. But to audition for a decent part in a feature film and you don't know your lines by heart, you're having to look at your script. I'm not interested when I see the top of your head. I don't want to see that. Right. So, you know, I would say you need to be prepared, and you need to arm yourself with the best possible tape, the best possible actor you can find to read with you, the best possible being prepared, the best possible, I've researched it. I know what kind of TV show this is. I know what the language is. I know there's a difference between how people speak on a Nickelodeon show than how they speak in a, you know, the next this Halloween, which just got wrapped, which we had 2 actors on that, I'm very proud to say. But there's a difference. There's just a difference in the tone and the temper of their voices. All of that is very, very different. So, you know,
you have to do your homework. And sometimes there's not a lot of information available, but you still got to dig. You just have to.
Yeah.
But at least you know who you're auditioning for. I mean, you know.
And make a choice. Make choices. Don't go for the middle of the road. Make some choices. Make some choices. Don't, you know, I think people get caught up sometimes in overanalyzing. They look at the description of the character. I know actors who never read descriptions of characters because they would rather read the script themselves and figure it out for themselves, and they bring themselves to it that way. Because as soon as you say, you know, she's an angry Italian woman in a pink chiffon dress at a party, and she's, you know, talking to a little boy, whatever, all of a sudden, you know what that person looks like in your head, but maybe that's not what the director's looking for. Maybe they're looking for something completely different.
Or they don't know what they're looking for until they find it, you know.
Right. Now you have to make choices. You can't just go in and say, you know, you can't just go in and do the lines like, okay, this is the way a nurse would say it. Make some choices. Make choices, because use your brain. Don't be a talking head. You know, use your brain. But
and,
you know,
even for like one-liners, like, you know, we all get auditions, you know, for like a 1 or 2 line thing, and you got to make a whole story out of it. You know, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, right?
You do.
Something interesting, even if it's not really what the script's ultimately going to be, but at least your audition can be an interesting little story.
Right. I one time when I was an actor, I drove to Wilmington in the heat of summer, and I had an audition for Bruce Paltrow was directing this TV series in Wilmington. It was Something Home. I don't remember. Some of you guys may remember, but it was called Something Home, and it was for a dietitian. And I in those days, if it was 1 or 2 lines, your agent didn't even fax you the sides. They would just say, show up, and they're going to give you the script and you go work on it. So they handed me the script. Literally, I'll pick up a piece of paper so I can show you. And I went, okay, because it was 1 word. It was 1 word. And it was a dietitian walking into a hospital room and saying, dinner. So anyway, so I walked in to my audition. Bruce Paltrow is sitting at the table. Lisa Fincannon is behind the camera taping me. And he said, okay, he said, who are you? I said, hi, I'm Terri Dollar. And he said, well, thank you, Terri. And he said, who are you reading for? I said, the dietitian. And he said, okay, all right, whenever you're ready. And I said, dinner. And then he went, he looked over at Lisa and he looked at me and he said, is that all she says? And Lisa says, that's all they wrote. And he said, well, I can't cast her by saying 1 word. Give the girl something to read. I can't cast her with 1 word. So she came back and she said, what if you let her read for nurse so-and-so? And he said, yeah, let her read for nurse so-and-so. And so this was a good part. She had like 4 scenes and, you know, bigger than dinner. And so anyway, so I went out and I worked on my lines, and I got the nurse's part. But I thought, you know, I kind of joked around with them when they said dinner. I said, I can say it like 20 different ways if you want me to. I can say it high or low, or I can turn around. I can say it over the shoulder. I can say it a million ways if you want to hear. He said, no, man. He said, we got to have more than 1 word for this part. So anyway, it was one of those cases where wasn't much there, but you know, I was trying to make some choices with that, because if you don't make choices, if you don't make a clear decision about something, the casting, you're going to fit in with everybody else, because they're watching these tapes now, especially with tapes. They're watching them and they're going, oh, well, that was an interesting choice.
Right. What did Mark Fincannon say the other day? Remember on that webinar we were watching?
He did. They like choices. I've myself been in the casting room. I've cast lots of things, not lots of things, but some things myself. And it's on, it used to be, it was on a TV on the VHS tape, but we were fast forwarding. Only when somebody was interesting to us did we watch the whole thing. And he also said, which is really important too, and in talking about what we can do to get the part, he also said, you know, getting it in early is super important.
Right.
Because especially for the smaller roles, as soon as they find what they're looking for, they're not looking anymore. They're not watching. They're just not going to watch. I mean, they're not. If they've got 10 good choices and they're sure they got their choice in there, they're going to send those 10. And if you've got 2 more days before that tape is due, sorry.
It's not even going to get watched.
Yeah, well, you have to treat it like a business, I think.
Right.
And I think in acting in general, you know, in terms of treating your acting career as a small business. I heard somebody say once, a businessman, he wasn't talking about acting, but he was talking about whatever your product was. And he said, almost any good quality product that's in a small business, like if you have a small business and you're making something, almost any good quality project business will be successful in time if it's a good product in time, but it's going to depend on how long the person who's selling it can keep going and can stay at it and can adapt and get better at what they're doing, because, you know, continuing to believe in it and continuing to work hard at it and continuing to be the best person in the room at doing whatever that thing is, you know. So, and I always remember that with acting, and I always just thought, you know, we represent actors who don't work for years, and then they book regular series regulars on TV shows. So it happens.
Yeah, it can happen. You have to be ready though, right?
You do. And especially if you're a young actor, if you're a kid, I mean, children are constantly changing. So, you know, until most of us are about 25 years old, we're still in this sort of nebulous phase where we're still becoming the adult that we're going to become. I like to think that we're always becoming, but in terms of how you look, I mean, I can look at a kid that I represented when they were 10 and then look at them at 20. They don't even look like the same person. And that's only 10 years. So you're like a different human being. So
yeah. How important are headshots still in this new era?
They're everything. They're everything.
Let's talk about that.
Well, it's still the thumbnail that we used to submit you. It's still that first thing that they see. If they don't know you already, then it's this little picture, and it's and on a screen now. It used to be, it was like a gigantic, you know, headshot. Now it's not. What they see is this tiny little thing on a screen. So it has to be compelling. It has to be professionally done. It has to be good. It has to be current. It should look exactly like you. It should be like a really good version of you, a really good representation of you.
Right. Not your prettiest, not your most gussied up, handsomest, but how you look every day.
Yep.
Are they seeing this little thing on Actors Access, or is it like, where else are they seeing the headshot besides Actors Access?
Well, I mean, on our website, sometimes people go to our website, and most of the times what we do is we submit people via Breakdown, which hooks up to an actor in Actors Access. So when we make submissions, then there's a whole page of our submissions, but all those little pictures are just tiny with your names under.
Right.
So to get them to click on you, to actually see your resume, to see your reel, to see your audition, the first thing they have to do is be compelled by that tiny little thing that's about as big as this on their screen. It's tiny. So, you know, it should be really, really, really good. But it also, you know, like you said, it has to look like you, but it has to be a good version of you. Like a lot of times we get actors headshots and we'll say to them, wow, you're way more handsome in person than this headshot. Or, wow, you're way younger in person. Or sometimes they look way older than this person. Back in the day, I don't know, I'm not going to say her name, but back in the day, there was this actor that Boots used to represent. And this was a very, very, very famous in Raleigh Little Theater, older actor. You can message me and I'll tell you who it was. But anyway, her headshot, I'm not kidding you. And Boots used to make fun of it, but she wasn't even looking in the camera. She's looking off at the side. And she has false eyelashes off, and she's like,
oh my God.
Like, it's just, and Boots would always say, look at that ridiculous thing. She's not even looking in the camera. No. I wish she'd get a different one. So,
no.
But she was
I once had really good advice about a headshot. You should ask like 10 people that you know, not your parents, not your sisters, brothers, nobody, not your husband or wife or your girlfriend, boyfriend, but just 10 other people, and ask them to give you 5 adjectives that best describe you. And then collate all those answers and see which adjectives are repeated. Like, what are people picking up on about you? And that's what should be reflected in your headshot. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because that way you also get to know yourself. Like, who are you? What are you bringing? What is your, who are you? What are you selling here?
But it should be you. We have actors sometimes who will say, I'm going to get my headshots done, and I want one that looks edgy, one that looks like this. And I'm just like, I mean, to me, like I said, it has to be a really good depiction, really good version of you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to look like you portraying, like we had an actor once who said, I'm going to take different outfits so that I can get photographed portraying different parts that I'd like to play.
No.
And I thought, oh my God, how can you possibly have gotten this far in acting and not know that you don't want to do that? You really have to, it has to be a good version of you. And that thing that a lot of women are afraid of is, they'll say, oh, I had an actress recently that we agreed to represent. She said, well, I'm going to get my headshots done, but I have to lose 10 pounds first. And I thought, no, you don't. No, you don't. You audition now.
Fighting with photographers, please stop photoshopping my wrinkles out of my headshot.
No, we don't want you to do that.
And I can't, that isn't me, that's not who I am. This is who I am. And that's what I'm bringing. And they're not going away on a day that I have an audition.
Nope. Back in the day, they used to, sometimes there was always a story of the casting director who would, when you came into audition, he would take your headshot and put it up beside your head and look at it as if you see if you looked that way anymore. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times now what casting directors are doing is, they get to see your tape. But a lot of times they'll say, send a day of, selfie. Because they want to see what you look like that day. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of a good idea to, that's another thing that would be a really good thing now is you could play around with the camera, see which angles are more, because with different people, different angles are more flattering. And like I said, when I say that you should be a good version of you, I'm not saying you want an ugly picture, but what you want is you want a really good picture of you, but it's a good representation of what you look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As much as I'd like to be 15 pounds skinnier and 15 years younger, whatever, this is me. So you want to portray that.
Yeah. All right. Well, so one other thing I wanted to ask you, I read a lot of books and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I feel like I'm a voracious consumer of as much knowledge as I can find out there. And I was going to ask you if you do the same thing. Do you read a lot of books about the business, or do you listen to podcasts about the business? How do you keep up on?
Sometimes, to be honest with you, until COVID-19 came around, we didn't have time.
Yeah.
We were running. Our agency has been extremely busy. But
very successful. And, like you were saying to me the other day, like people don't even get how busy you are up until midnight because of the time difference on the West Coast, and things are changing, scripts come in late at night and people have to be on set at 5:30 in the morning. And there's just, it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes for you well into the night. So I'm sure
Julie and I work really late. We get up in the morning and we take care of a few things. And then actually we have a couple of hours where we normally work out or we take care of some things. But then lunchtime we're on. About 4:00 in the afternoon, it's just like we're shooting from every cannon we can possibly shoot, because LA is really going then, and there's tapes, there's tapes to get out, there's auditions to get out, there's questions from actors. It's not uncommon for me to be on the phone at 10:00 at night talking to an LA person who's complaining about the fact that they're still in their office at 7 p.m. And I want to say, would you like me to call you back at 7 a.m. East Coast time tomorrow and we can finish this discussion? But at the same time, whatever it takes for our actors to get hired, we want to be accessible. So we work a lot. So I don't really have a lot of time for that. I can tell you that, I've had time. And like I said, I'm really enjoying taking this time. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I know I should, but I read, I've been reading more recently. I'm reading Jessica Simpson's biography right now,
Yes.
which is really quite interesting. My daughter has gotten me in. I'm in a book club with two people, her and me, right now. We're reading that, and Giver of Stars is the other book. But
I just read that. I just finished it.
It's supposed. I mean, I'm about halfway. I'm reading them both at the same time, so it's kind of weird. But in any case, the Jessica Simpson book, from my perspective, is a really good one, because it really does go into child acting and being a child performer, and all the stuff that went on in her life, and it's very fascinating in that way. But I do. I mean, we try to also read a lot of scripts that people send for our actors, and so I can't say that I mean, like I used to. I don't really do. I'm hoping to do more of that. But you understand that I went from working at Artsplosion until last September.
I know.
And then I left Artsplosion and I went to New Orleans, and I was running the agency as well as babysitting for my 2-year-old precious grandson.
Oh, we didn't look at Arlo. Wait. I had to run. I forgot. Okay, well, here's your beautiful girls and Clark.
Yeah, there we are. That was at Caroline's wedding last year in Sonoma.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
then
thank you.
Arlo. There he is. Oh, he's so cute.
Yep, there he is.
So
He is. That's my boy.
Yeah.
So I went to help my daughter out, and that was in January that I came back. And so literally I had a month. So I'm hoping in my new life, which I haven't really sunk into now, being in Raleigh, just working the agency, that I have time to listen to the podcasts and stuff like that.
I have a couple of good books for you. Did you ever hear about The Actor's Life by Jenna Fisher?
Of course. That's a great one. So yeah, no, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Oh my God, you need to read it. It's so, like, every young actor should read it. It's awesome. Fantastic. And what's another one? Oh, it's a really good book, especially for theater people, is John Lithgow's autobiography called Drama.
I haven't read. I don't know about that, but I love John Lithgow.
It's fantastic. I read it a few years ago and I just loved it. What else? Oh, Failing Up, Leslie Odom Jr.'s book is really good. And then my Bibles, The Artist's Way. Did you ever do
The Artist's Way? Yes, I just wrote about The Artist's Way. Okay, so yes, that book kind of saved my life.
To do it, because everybody's got time on their hands now.
Yes, that book saved my life. Right before I started working at Artsplosion, I was kind of in a funk. And I actually the way I heard about The Artist's Way was I actually was listening to the radio one day, and Kathy Mattea, country singer Kathy Mattea, was being interviewed, and she talked about being in this funk, and she said that she had read this book called The Artist's Way, and it saved her life. So I didn't have a Kindle back then, or anyway, I had to go to Barnes and Noble and buy it, but I bought it. And since that time, it's so funny that you would say that, Susannah, but I've probably bought that book for 10 people in my life over the years, and I think it's out of print now, as a matter of fact.
Oh no, I think you can still get it. I think.
Can you? Okay.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, it saved my life, because it's a lot about journaling, you guys.
You do your morning pages. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was it saved my life at that time in my life. I would have to say that book saved my life. So I definitely think that would be a great read right now. It's really not as much about acting per se, it's just really about creativity more than anything else.
Right. So. And having structure to it, putting structure into your creativity so that you don't get mired down and lost in your thoughts, like, oh, I'm not being productive enough, or I can't finish a project, or it just gives you the freedom to create, but it also discipline. Every morning you have to get up and
truly.
Did you ever read Big Magic?
No.
Girl.
Oh, it's Elizabeth Gilbert's book. I love Elizabeth Gilbert.
This is my Bible. Like, if I could give this book to everybody I know, I would. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Creative living down here.
I'm going to get that. That'll be my next read after I finish the 2 I'm doing now.
Do it. So this is all about the artist artistic part of it, but not the business part of it. But that's okay. You know, there's a lot to be learned. I really love Audrey Moore's podcast, Audrey Helps Actors. Do you know about that?
No.
She is fantastic because
Good.
she lays down some truth for you. She's an LA-based actor, and she's successful, that she's a working actor. You may not know her, but this woman books, and she makes her living acting. And she has this podcast called Audrey Helps Actors, and she just lays down truth about the business for you. And she's also really into financial literacy, and you know, how actors make money, how much you need to make in order to live if you're going to LA or New York. She will tell you in dollars and cents, this is how much you're going to have to make. This is how much you're going to have to pay your agent, your managers, Uncle Sam. This is what you're going to, you know, she knows all the ins and outs of SAG-AFTRA and all the contracts, you know, all the different structures of the contracts. And
that's awesome.
Honest to God, if there's one podcast that is really helpful in this business, it would be Audrey Helps Actors. And you can find her on Instagram. She's really great. But
Thanks, Susannah. I like getting these tips from you.
I listen to The Business. Like, I like to listen to Kim Masters' podcast, The Business, because she, of course, is an old Hollywood queen and knows everything. But anyway, and also that One Audition podcast. You ever heard of?
Oh yeah, yes, that I've heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really
that
great.
I've heard of.
Those are good listens. Yeah. All right. Well, what else, Terri Dollar? Anything else we didn't cover that?
I'm not sure. Want to
do a few lightning round questions with me?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm terrible at these, but
no,
go
you're
for
not.
it.
All right. What is something that people often get wrong about you?
They get my age wrong a lot of times.
You look like you're 30. That's why.
But that kind of works against me sometimes. People get my age wrong, and then a lot of times people think I'm always happy. They do. They go, well, you're always happy. You're always cheerful.
Because you always present like you are.
My really good friends know there's a down Terri too.
Sure. All right.
Everybody has them.
Yeah. What's the last show you binge watched and loved?
Sex Education on Netflix.
Yes.
Loved it. Oh my God. Well, Asa Butterworth, I dig.
Yeah.
I just dig him. I think he's so great. And I don't know, just the whole show. I liked the teenage actors in that show are phenomenal.
Have you watched Never Have I Ever yet?
You'll like haven't seen that one.
It's teenage actors too. It's high school. I loved it. I thought it was great. We binged it in like 3 days. It was really good.
Well, the relationship between them and their parents too, I really identified with that. People think it's, there's a lot of sex in it, but that really wasn't my attraction to it. It really was, these characters and the scenery and, oh my God, the British accents. I fell in love with it.
All right. Sign me up. I'll watch it. Okay. What's your favorite movie?
Terms of Endearment would be that. And people always laugh, and I've made my children watch it and they go, oh God. But honestly, the same thing. That movie to me is endearingly funny. I loved Deborah Winger back in my day. Oh my God, I loved everything that she did. And I could watch that movie 100 times and Shirley MacLaine, anybody that's ever been a mother, that scene in the very beginning of the movie when Shirley MacLaine climbs in the crib with her baby just to be close to see if she's breathing. I identified with that. And then there's the scene with Deborah Winger's youngest boy. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but they have this scene when Deborah Winger's in the hospital and he says very little, but he's crying. And I am slayed when I watch that. I'm slayed.
I love everything that Larry McMurtry ever wrote. So I love that. That movie's so good. Oh, okay. What's your favorite meal?
Anything that comes from Beta Manda, and they've been closed right now, but I like their pad thai shrimp. They do a special thing for me there. They have a basil stir fry. I'm a pescatarian, so I don't eat. That's another thing that most people don't know. I actually haven't eaten any chicken, pork, or beef in over 20 years.
Wow.
So I know. So I eat fish. So anyway, they do it's a basil stir fry with shrimp. And it's not even on their menu, but they'll do it for me. They have it written down somewhere. Make this for Terri if she comes in here. So yeah, I love everything from there.
That's right. All right. What's your greatest fear?
I think disappointing people is one of my fears. I don't like disappointing people, but I think more than that, probably my biggest fear is that something will happen to somebody that I love and I'm powerless to do anything. So that, it's also a source of anxiety that I have. Sometimes at night I'll wake up and one of my children or my grandson or my husband or somebody's in trouble and I'm trying to help them and I can't get to them or I can't find them. And oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a horrible one.
Which person, living or dead, do you most admire?
I'm just going to be real, and don't think I'm trying to be cheesy here, but when I say people that I admire right now, it's actually a group of people, and it's very timely that it's this weekend, but I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I don't really know why, but I admire mothers everywhere right now. If you're a mother, I admire the heck out of you, because if you don't have children and you're not a mother, you will never know you'll never know what it's like to be completely unselfish, for one thing, because you learn to put another human being's wishes and dreams and feelings and health and everything before your own. And I also think there's a lot of wisdom that comes from mothering, but I admire the strength. I admire strong moms. I admire strong moms. I mean, I'm in awe when I meet, and it's wonderful too. Once you're a mom, you have this kinship with other mothers in every culture, wherever you've traveled, wherever you are, whatever socioeconomic class you're in, you have that in common with them. I just admire. And I talk to moms. Susannah, you're such a wonderful mom, and how you care about your kids and everything. And I just admire that so much. When people start talking to me about their kids, I mean, I'm in awe of them. I really am.
Well, you're going to make us all cry now.
Happy Mother's Day. We should all pat ourselves on the back.
Okay. What is the trait that you most deplore in yourself?
I can't stop talking.
Question to that, his answer the other night. I don't deplore anything in myself. I like everything about myself. I'm like, yes, I know.
The trait that I most deplore is that I don't know when to shut up. Sometimes I just keep talking when I ought to just stop. Sometimes I'll have a great conversation with someone, and then I realize, like 3 or 4 minutes in, why didn't you stop talking? So, yeah.
I don't think so, but okay. All right. What is your favorite journey?
My favorite journey that I've ever taken, and I actually did it twice, and I can't really decide which one of the times that I like the most, but I mean, I would like to say it's any trip that I do with my family, but when you do a trip with your family, it becomes about them and it becomes about all that stuff. But I've had some good ones with my family, but 2 different times I went to Smolensk, Russia, and I worked with orphans in the Smolensk area of Russia. And I went with my church, and I was like the arts person that they wanted to come along, and I had to bring all these arts and crafts activities for children to do.
Wow.
And we saw about 800 orphans the first time I went. And the second time we went in the summer, and we also went with a bunch of young people too. But it was such a journey for me because this was not your tourist view of Moscow and St. Petersburg. We went there for fun, but we were in a very more rural, more real area of Russia. And there was a lot of poverty and in being in these orphanages, which we don't possess in the United States, but you would go into these, I mean, they're like institutions with floor after floor after floor of these beautiful, parentless children. And it was fun they were so hungry for physical touch it was fun to just, I mean, and it was funny because I'm with this group and they're walking in and they're kind of waving, and, I am never more at home than when there's a bunch of kids around. I walked smack dab into the middle of them and just started hugging everybody. And I was not, I mean, nowadays who would do that, but there was no fear when it comes to children, and they just wanted to be touched and hugged. And we did all kinds. We sang songs with them and we did arts and crafts, and it was exhausting. And at that time, I was actually a vegan. So it's really hard to be a vegan in Russia, let me tell you right now. So I learned how to say I'm a vegetarian. Ya vegetarianka. I would say that. And then they would look at you like, and they would serve you something that was vegetables, but it would have like an inch of lard on the top.
Wow.
And I would say, Niet, ya vegetarianka. And they would go, yeah, that's vegetables. Like there's vegetables in there. And I would be like, bleh. It was really hard, but food aside, it was wonderful.
Wow. Good for you. That's really cool, Terri. That is really,
it was cool.
Yeah. Okay. If you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to a dinner party, who would you invite?
That one's easy for me. That one is the easiest question you've asked me. Because my mom died when she was 45, I would invite her and Aubrey and Caroline to dinner, because she didn't get to meet them. Right. And she didn't get to see, when she passed away, I was a selfish 21-year-old. I mean, I wasn't the person that I am today. Right. And it would be wonderful to have her be able to sit and have dinner with the 3 of us and to see, her legacy.
Look how it all turned out. I know.
It turned out okay.
Looking down on you. She sees you. She knows. All right. Last but not least, what is your motto?
My motto has been for a really long time. I have to make sure I say it the right way. I used to have it on my wall at Artsclosure, and people used to make fun of me. And it's this one: you get one shot. Make everybody wonder how the hell you did it.
Oh, I love that.
And the picture that I had is so great, because it's this girl and she's got her hands over her head and she's got like 12 hula hoops on and she's hooping. So,
that's awesome.
If you look at life as, this is the only shot that I have. Today is all that I have. This is my one shot. Yeah. So you have to make people wonder, how did she do it? Or how, you have to, and I think more than anything else is, to try to be as amazing as you can every single day, because you don't know. I mean, life is short and you don't know. Maybe you don't have a chance tomorrow to do that. So yeah. I guess that's a long and short of it. I know it's a weird one.
Well, you make it look really easy. You really do, Terri.
Thank you, Susannah. I want to thank all the people that have been texting me. I get my text up in the, I'm going to cheers to you. I get my text up in the corner, and there's been so many nice people that have been texting me and saying nice things. So thank you guys. Thank you for watching.
I'm so glad to have spent this time with you. Thank you so much for doing this, because I know you've had a very long day and a busy week, and there's a lot going on. So thank you. Thank you.
Not really. This has been nice today to have fun things to do. And it's been really fun to talk to you. And it's been really fun to get to do this.
Great. I'm so glad. And I'll see you soon.
Yes, of course.
And until then, please stay well, stay safe. And we'll see you.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Okay. See ya. Bye-bye.